Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. You have to mind that gap at the top already, don't you? Liverpool are 5 ahead of their nearest rivals. It's 5 out of 5 victories in the Premier League. It's nearly perfect. There's so much to like at the moment. There's so much to talk about. And even the games, even when they're not the biggest of competitions for everyone, they are coming thick and fast. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And just overall, the picture for everything that's happened so far, David, and we've analysed, there isn't really much to complain about right now, is there?
No, I mean, some people are finding ways to do it, but just a far better start to the season than I think even the biggest optimist expected, to be honest, because I just think with the change, everything that's gone on this summer, you thought there were going to be some teething problems. And I mean, there have been this, there's not been perfect performances, but in terms of the points return and especially considering the fixture list Liverpool were given to start the season, it's pretty amazing. And the fact is, if you keep winning relentlessly, then your rivals will inevitably drop points because nobody can go at 3 points a game, which Liverpool are doing at the moment, and that is happening. And so, to have a cushion already to win a derby, to be perfect in the Champions League so far as well, it's pretty amazing, really, and a huge credit to the players and the manager for managing that.
Yeah, has been some week, especially when you look at all the others. And I mean, we've got to get right into it. We secured derby bragging rights, and I suppose before we analyse the game, we were both there on Saturday and it was an early kickoff, but it didn't quite feel like a normal early kickoff. I don't know why. It just felt like it was more up for it than normal. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, probably helpful that it was a derby, really, because I was a bit worried. I know we were messaging before the match. I was a little bit concerned that the atmosphere wouldn't quite be there. And as you said, it's kind of quiet around the ground in the build-up to the game, wasn't it? It was kind of, as you expect, everyone's kind of just sloping out of bed on a Saturday morning at the time that the game kind of kicks off, really. So, but once it kicked off, I thought it was a really good atmosphere and really got going. It was helped certainly by the performance on the pitch from Liverpool, certainly in the first half. I think the atmosphere kind of matched that, which was, the players absolutely needed that. I think they needed to be roared on, and it's something we kind of highlighted ahead of the game, really, is important. And I think Anfield delivered, and I think there's been some great atmospheres so far this season. And in the end, that kind of helped Liverpool over the line, I think.
Yeah, it was needed in the second half. And in the first half, I mean, 2-0 up as we go into the break. Is it fair to say that's probably the best half of the season so far?
Yeah, I think Atletico was up there. To be fair, I thought they were very good in that game and in both halves, really. To be honest, but yeah, in terms of things coming off, and there was some really, really good stuff in that first half, and obviously to take a 2-goal lead in it, which was it was just fully merited, wasn't it? I think up to the kind of half-hour mark when Liverpool have scored, they've had multiple opportunities. They scored 2 really good goals, and I think Everton at half an hour in are on something like 0.09 expected goals themselves as well. So it was just a perfectly balanced performance, as you say, and they were really, really good. And you get that platform then, and you think, well, this could be anything. This is the hiding that Liverpool have been threatening all season so far, particularly the last few games. Obviously, doesn't quite work out like that, but very, very impressive in that first half, in that first half hour in particular.
Yeah, no doubts about it. And even for the second half, because Everton get their goal. I mean, there's no way Gay scores that in the top corner every week. We saw the effort he had in the first half. But was it maybe just a case of the week caught up with them a little bit? Because it has been 3 games in 6 days.
Yeah, it's crazy, really, as well, because you kind of forget about these things. I know I certainly did. So I'm sat in the press box watching the second half thinking, God, Everton are playing quite well here. I know they've improved under David Moyes, but they're really dominating. And certainly not in terms of chances, but in terms of territory, definitely they were on top in that second half. And I'm sat there thinking, how are Liverpool letting this happen? They're letting the team back in again, which is something they've done. And I spoke about the mitigation after Atletico with. They were just kind of unlucky for me in that game to let Atletico back in it. But this time it really felt like they were giving momentum to Everton. And it's only kind of when it gets to full time, I think about the schedule that they've just had and the manager speaks about in his press conference. And the crazy thing is, I've been at the 3 games in 6 days. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it in the like while the game is going on, which is it shows you it's kind of easy to forget what these players are kind of having to put in on such a regular basis, really. And I thought they were, in that context, really, you've just got to tip your hat to them, because to not concede obviously they concede the one, but to not concede a second, to give up so little really in terms of opportunities, because as I say, Everton had territory, but I think they end up with 0.6 expected goals, which is, you're kind of happy if you come out of any match with that. 0.6, 0.7 is probably the benchmark where you kind of want to be at the very top end of it anyway. And to come out and to grind it out, having played that electric football in the first half, just showed you kind of two sides of the coin, that Liverpool can, they can tear you apart, but they can also really, really grind it out and battle and show character. And they definitely did that. And to restrict Everton, despite all the territory they had, I thought was, a brilliant effort, really. In 3 games in 6 days, when you're up against a side that is prepared for a full 7 days, not even 6 days for them, 7 days, and been able to work on everything, to have that extra legs in the second half, and they still couldn't find a way through. I thought, you've really, really got to tip your hat to Liverpool there for getting through and showing what they're all about.
Well, one of the English teams in the Champions League out of 6 won their victory or their game at the weekend. I think we all know who that was. Simple as that. And we've got to talk about some players. This is just rinse repeat as well. Ryan Gravenberch doing his best Mo Salah impression with a goal and assist, but just brilliant again, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that finish is just utterly world class, isn't it? I mean, at no point when the ball dinks over, you're just thinking he's going to have to take this down. He's going to bring someone else into play. I didn't think he's going to have a go. And it's such a difficult technique that, I mean, to the ball is still rising and he has to kind of, it's like a hook, isn't it? It's kind of to get the enough power to dip it over Pickford in the direction as well is unbelievable. And he follows that up with a beautifully weighted assist. And then I thought everything else he did in the game, winning his duels, winning tackles as well, being that defensive shield, particularly in that second half when Liverpool were under the cosh a little bit. I mean, the manager said after the game, actually, would have liked to have taken him off around the hour mark, but of course it goes 2-1 and he can't really do that. And thank goodness he didn't, really, because I just think he's so important to helping Liverpool get through it in the end. He's just an utterly world-class midfielder now. I don't think there's any question about that. And very, very fortunate that Liverpool kind of stumbled upon this solution of him playing in the 6, but he also, of course, is part of the rotation now, which works really nicely. So just a joy to watch him at the minute, but it has been for the past 12 months or so.
And you're right with the rotation, because if you see it on the TV and you're in the ground and you watch it back, you can just pick up things, but you can see very much, and he's talking there as he gave that interview, playing with more freedom. The way Liverpool are playing the double pivot, they are going almost a rotational 6, aren't they? Like box to box, it seems quite often. You'll see Grav drop in at times, but also Szoboszlai, McAllister in this. It really is almost like a rotational 6, it seems.
Yeah, it's really nice, actually. Something they've clearly worked on in pre-season to bring into this season is to give opposition players something else to think about, something else to deal with. And I think it's a really clever solution to the Trent Alexander-Arnold issue, personally, because I think they had to get a little bit clever in build-up, because they just don't have this cheat code at right back who can slide your ball into the final third from absolutely nowhere. They have to get clever in the build-up, otherwise it's so easy to press them and stop them. So, these little rotations they're doing now, and obviously, it's helping them in build-up, but it's also helping them get in someone like Ryan Gravenberch a little bit closer to goal. I mean, primarily his role is to clean up and do the number 6 stuff, and he is the one who sits at that base more than anyone. But he's very, very capable. If he picks his moments to get into the final third, he's as good as anyone in that area, and he shows it with that finish, that assist. So I really like the way that is working at the moment, and that shows you the value as well, by the way, of having versatile midfielders who can do a bit of everything, and Liverpool definitely have that. So that's working really well, and I think it's getting even more out of Gravenberch on top of what we saw last season. So yeah, really, really clever from the management.
Yeah, and it is suiting him an awful lot at the moment. And I mean, another player, there was rumours of his demise early doors, but there's Jack Grealish queuing for Mo Salah's shirt. And he was good again, wasn't he? And a great assist in this one.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? The speed with which people wanted to kind of write him off and pretend he's absolutely finished. I mean, 3 goals, 3 assists so far this season. Yeah, I thought he was excellent again, as he was in midweek. And yeah, he's just a massive player, isn't he? And he always turns up in these big games as well. Always provides a goal or assist in them. And he's going to, his numbers are going to be right up there again this season. So yeah, maybe we could just hold back on writing him off at some points, because I know people are very eager to do it.
Yeah, he's going to finish top of those charts again. And there is another player I wanted to give a shout out for, because it's not been the easiest of starts for Milos Kerkez, but this just felt like his best game all round, didn't it? He seemed to have a real impact in this one.
Yeah, but again, really, for me, kind of feeds into this. And I don't know if this is a kind of social media driven thing, but it's like people are so desperate to be the first to say that a player's terrible or that a player's great, or, and so it's just swinging wildly all the time what people think about certain players. Yeah. And, this guy's a god and this guy's absolutely woeful and has to be sold in the summer. And it's more kind of reactive than it's ever been, really, in terms of that. And Kerkez is a victim of that for me, because I thought he was magnificent against Arsenal, for example. I thought he was very, very good against Newcastle, but he obviously makes a mistake around a goal that's conceded. But it's kind of like, and then he's had some performances where he hasn't been as good and, obviously gets taken off against Burnley. And it's right, well, this guy's actually rubbish now because of the Burnley performance, and he misses Atletico. And then therefore that means he's a complete write-off. And it's like, he's obviously not, is he? And let's stop doing that. Let's stop being so reactive. And, you can take things over a 10-game period or maybe even a little bit longer. It's smart to do that, rather than trying to be the one who has the hot take first. So loads of nonsense about this, loads of panic about when he comes into the starting 11. And then I thought he was pretty flawless, to be honest. Just really committed in his defensive work, barely gave the ball away. Nothing rash that he did. I thought just, he can look a bit busy in the way he does things. And so maybe that makes people a bit panicky, but I just think he's very attentive to his job, and he gets stuck in, and, he's going to have the odd poor performance or whatever. It's because he's 21 years old coming to Liverpool. Standards just unbelievable. And it's, as the manager points out, he didn't have to play 3 games a week at Bournemouth. So we're going to see some little ups and downs, but the ups are going to be more than the downs, because we're talking about a very, very talented young player here. And I thought he showed it against Arsenal. I thought he showed it against Newcastle, as I say, and I thought he showed it here. He's just a very good player. So can we stop? He's going to have a stinker at some point. Can we just calm down about it a little bit? And we don't have to swing to the extremes on everything all the time. And I thought very, very good again against Everton, as he has been in multiple games this season and will be in multiple games going forward. I think a really, really good signing for Liverpool.
Yeah, it did look good in this one. And I suppose a bit of the difference in this one, it seemed like even with the derby, he had a bit more freedom, didn't he? He was actually going at times and overlapping and putting crosses. We actually almost saw the Kerkez we thought we were signing and how he was going to be utilised.
Yeah, he didn't seem to have to kind of hug the centre half as much, which was interesting. I don't know why. The manager will probably give a good explanation of why exactly that has been the case in some games and not in this one. Maybe it's because it's a home game against the side you're going to be on the front foot against. But I think that worked, and he can deliver a good cross as well, can't he? He gives them something else to think about. And actually, I think kind of, we know about that quality he's got, because obviously we saw it for Bournemouth last season, but also I think it's telling that the manager brings him on against Atletico late on, just to give them something else to think about. Just to, this guy's got pace on the overlap. He can swing a ball in. If we don't cover him, then and then all of a sudden you just start to get a bit stretched or whatever. So, yeah, he's definitely got that. And I'm sure we will see more and more of that as the season goes on. The manager will give him a bit more license as he beds in. So, he's got all that to come as well, on top of these brilliant defensive performances where he just feels like he wins nearly every duel and wins every tackle, and he's doing a really good job in terms of all that. And by the way, he's unbelievable in the air. I just mentioned that quickly. Like, for someone who's not the tallest, he wins a lot of headers. So that's really nice when your fullback can do that, because obviously that's something that teams tend to target, is back stick and try and get a big man on the fullback. But he can he's got a real leap on him. So yeah, really, really like Kirkers as a player, and a lot more to come from him as well.
Did have a really good game on Saturday. And even when it was finished, the one thing I enjoyed, even when you see it afterwards, I mean, the David Moyes, the Jack Grealish interviews were quite funny, the things they were complaining about. But even ex-United players talking about the added time. Is it just showing where we are now, that we are just almost hated by everyone? It's a glorious place to be, really, isn't it?
Well, what's funny to me about that? I mean, I don't really understand why people think there should have been more added time. For what? Nothing really happened, did it? Subs, and they played past the 3, by the way. So, they accounted for every little bit of extra kind of stoppages, and there just wasn't any real justification for a lot of stoppage time, because Everton weren't wasting time, because at no point did they lead in the game. So, and Liverpool are not really a time wasting team. So 3 minutes was absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned, and they played a little bit beyond that as well to allow Everton to have an attack play out. If they'd have played further beyond that, by the way, Isak would have scored his first goal for Liverpool, so that would have been quite nice. So that maybe Liverpool should be aggrieved about that, but I didn't think there was any kind of need for that. But it's kind of funny, like, you see him, Rio Ferdinand or rival fans kind of tweeting about this stuff, because it just kind of reminds me when I was 10 years old and I was convinced that it was like a conspiracy to give Manchester United every decision and every moment, rather than just accepting they had the best players and the best manager, and Liverpool were not very good at the time. So, I think posting about this stuff is kind of the kind of thing you should maybe grow out of once you get past the age of 18, really. But if Rio Ferdinand wants to bang on about it, then fair enough.
It is just funny, and it was such a great weekend, and just added a little bit of joy to it. Although, as we move into the off the field news from the game, I mean, there was a real sadness comes out on Saturday night when this was announced, and it was the sudden and tragic passing of Matt Beard, the former Liverpool WSL head coach there. I mean, it's been quite telling, hasn't it, across the board, how many tributes and how many outpourings of love have come for this guy as well.
Yeah, really shocking news, to be honest. I mean, I've not done a lot of women's over my career, really. I just don't have the time to do it. And obviously there are dedicated reporters who do that. But I've done bits and bobs. And whenever I've met Matt, he just seemed like a really, really nice guy. And I know everyone says that in these moments, but it genuinely kind of came off like that. And I know how well regarded he was and really well liked. And, the fact is, people just wouldn't say this if it wasn't true about how nice a guy he was. And, you can really feel that in people's tributes. And I felt it in the brief times that I met him as well. And just really, really shocking news, to be honest. Just really sad. And I know a lot of people around the club are really kind of hurting off the back of this. And just another reminder, really, of how kind of short life is, and that you've got to kind of appreciate everything you get and all the upsides and all the happiness and the moments, because it's so fleeting. It really is. Just really, really sad news. And my thoughts really do go out to his family. Just devastating, and another kind of tragedy befalling the club as well in a really difficult summer. It's just hard to fathom, to be honest.
Yeah, it hasn't been the greatest of summers that way. And like you say, your heart just goes out to the family. And I know the club will announce something. There'll be some more coming tributes in the week ahead. And I mean, in this week ahead, Mo Salah is headed to the Ballon d'Or this week. I don't know if you call it the award ceremony, the festival, however you call it. He's got a lot of trophies on the picture there. Think he's got a chance of bringing this golden ball home at all?
Probably not, to be honest. I don't have much faith in the vote, and I think he should win it, to be honest. I think he was the top scorer, top assister in the hardest league in the world, and that element of it for me, by the way, is not under question, to be honest. It's the most intense, the best league, without question. For example, maybe Ousmane Dembele will win it, and what a player he is, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that for a second, but Dembele, it's so you don't even have to question that PSG will win the Ligue 1. No. It's not even, they don't go into the season with who might challenge them. I know there's been occasions over the last 10 years where they haven't won it, but it's just a given that they will win it. Whereas for Liverpool, they have to give absolutely everything. And I think that's what kind of cost them actually against PSG. And by the way, if they win that penalty shootout against PSG, I think they go and win the Champions League anyway. And if they do that, then Salah gets the Ballon d'Or. And it just, to me, just seems ridiculous. I just think in terms of individual performance, the level that he performed at last season, there was nobody in the world who touched the quality levels that Salah showed. And he won't win it because you know, it's all these team of things, and it basically kind of, we have to seemingly give it now to the one who wins the most team trophies for some reason. But that, you know, it's an individual award, and I really do think Salah should have won it. He'll probably end his career now not having won it, despite probably having been the best player in the world for a couple of seasons, I think, out of his career. But what can you do? It's, you know, it's just a nonsense, really, isn't it? And I just hope he finishes as high as possible. And, you know, his reward at the very least will be kind of the love of Liverpool fans who don't doubt for a second how good he is, even if, you know, the journalists across Europe maybe won't vote for him. But yeah, I think it's a travesty he's not going to win it. But there you go.
You do think it's going that way. And the expectation is, and he's trying not to be cynical or sound so loserish, that because PSG have won the Champions League, no one's still going to look and go, by the way, Mo Salah's got 63 goals and assists in 58 games under Arne Slot in the hardest league. And they're not going to look at that. They're just going to say, PSG won the Champions League, the end, aren't they?
I mean, well, the most frustrating aspect, actually, is that kind of this talk that Lamine Yamal will finish above him, which I just think is a nonsense. I mean, this kid is going to be unbelievable. I mean, he is unbelievable at the moment. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think you can say on his performances last season that he was better than Mo Salah. He just wasn't for me. I mean, what does he end up with? Like 9 league goals in La Liga.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So I'm sure he was playing really well in a lot of those games because he's fabulous. But come on, like, what Salah was doing was just on a different level. If Yamal finishes above him, I think it's a joke, really. But then that just kind of sums up what the award is, and kind of, you know, it's who plays for this club, who will do the most to get the most votes. And I don't think Liverpool play that game as much as Barca and PSG will, because of the whole glamour around them or whatever. That's not really Liverpool's bag usually. So, yeah, whatever, really, I guess. I only feel for Mo because I think he deserves it. But, yeah, I just think that the whole thing's a nonsense, really.
Yeah, and at least we'll go and not sulk off and not turn up at least. So we will see what happens later today. And, I mean, rewinding back to yesterday, because we have got to talk a little bit about it. That Arsenal-City game, I mean, which now leaves us 5 points ahead of Arsenal. And Christ, you have to scroll down to City in 9th on 7 points, 8 behind us. It wasn't the greatest spectacle of a game, really, was it?
No, it was interesting. It didn't kind of go out I think anyone would have maybe expected. And I think if you said 18 months ago that one team was going to be back to the wall and the other was going to be dominating possession and looking to probe, you would have kind of flipped the script on that one. But yeah, kind of nice to watch from a Liverpool perspective, knowing that maybe, you know, City winning wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. A draw in the end, you can absolutely take that as well. And Liverpool coming out of it with the lead that they've got. So, yeah, I don't think a bad result for Liverpool at all. And, you know, already got a 5-point lead, and you're like, I honestly mean this. Like, I know it's so early to say this, but you kind of think, like, if Arsenal lose at the weekend and Liverpool win and that goes to 8 points, you're already, I know 6 games in, this sounds stupid, but you're already getting to the point where you're like, that's quite a big gap. That is a big gap for Arsenal to claw back, because they have to be perfect. Liverpool have to go on a really bad run to claw it back. And then, even then, they have to then be better than Liverpool from that point. We talked about the maths of that quite a lot last season, about what it means to overturn an 8-point deficit or whatever. I know we're not quite there yet, but you know, it's already this pressure on Arsenal, and just from Liverpool's perspective, that's fantastic, really.
It is crazy to go. And I suppose the thing, I don't know if it really told for you in this game, they get an equaliser, so you give them credit for that, but they celebrate it like it's a World Cup winner. We know what we've been doing week in, week out. We're getting that ball out the net. We're pushing for the winner. Anfield would have just been electric beyond belief in that situation. Is that, they talk about small margins at the top. Is that what it is essentially?
I just think like the mentality of the players in that scenario and the mentality of the manager is a different matter, but all feeds in together. But just what are you doing, not getting hold of the ball and getting it down with? They still had what? Because I looked at it when the goal goes in. Is it 4 or 5 minutes left to get another goal? And I'm thinking like, oh, Arsenal could do this, and then you realise that they're not getting the ball, and you're like, maybe I'm just thinking of this from a Liverpool perspective, whereby they would. I mean, so I saw someone put a post on Twitter earlier saying something about, remember when Origi got the ball out of the net when he'd scored the winner in the derby? That's how locked in Liverpool are. I thought that was funny. But it's true, like I just could not believe that they think that was a good result, particularly as, for them, they needed to win. They've got to stay close to Liverpool. They have to stay close to Liverpool. Because last season they didn't, and then it got to the point where there was no chance of them getting back in. And so, I can't believe they think that a draw is a good result in that situation. And it's just kind of, I think the difference in mentality around the starting 11 as well, the manager puts out, again, just trying to contain, not trying to win the game. Yeah. And then the difference in the kind of, the substitute, he brings on Mascara at the end, doesn't he, after they go 1-1? Yeah. What is that about? Honestly, I could not believe that. And this genuinely, like, we can buy into these narratives too much sometimes and kind of make too much of it and try and be too critical in situations where they don't deserve it. But bringing on a centre-half in that situation at 1-1, you genuinely know for a fact, because we've got proof, not just this season, but last season, Arne Slot would not do that.
No.
Arne Slot's been throwing on Rio Engamoura at Newcastle. He's been throwing on Chiesa in every opportunity he gets. He just throws on forwards until a goal happens. He puts Gravenberch at centre-half. He's just throwing on wide threats constantly. He's like, how can we score another goal? And Arteta's instinct in that situation is, oh, don't throw away a point. A point's no use to you. You need to win that game, particularly now because you've got to go to Newcastle and probably win. A place that's very, I know they're not flying at the moment, but they've conceded only 3 goals, all of which came in one game. And it's a tough place to go for Arsenal, that. And all of a sudden you're in, they have to win that game now. And it's like, that's a disastrous position to be in. And so I think all the criticism that Arteta gets, I think is merited, really. And I just, that for me was the biggest kind of example you could get of the difference in the mentality of the managers and the players between Liverpool. And we talk about mentality sometimes too much and say, sometimes it just comes down to quality. But I could not believe what I was seeing with that yesterday. Bringing on a centre-back, the team he starts with, they're not getting the ball out of the net. They're going to make it easy for Liverpool again if they keep it up.
Yeah. And to be fair, as I'm saying it, I'm all here for it because it just shows that difference in mentality, that edge you need at the top. And the more they do it, the happier we will be. And I suppose the only other thing in all the narratives yesterday, and I get they've got to play up, there's a title race and people. And the thing that just for me is a bit lazy at the moment is everyone keeps talking and just using it as a given. Liverpool's defence isn't good enough. They can see goals and they're really open. But when you look at things like the XG, it's never been above 1. It's been below 1 in every single game this season. There's been a couple of clean sheets. It's like that bit in Bournemouth has just been extrapolated as what's going to happen all season. It's just a bit of a lazy narrative, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't think it pays attention to what's actually been happening in the games, to be honest. I mean, I think it was absolutely fair to criticise after the Community Shield and Bournemouth. He did look open. Yeah, they looked like they couldn't stop counter-attacks, but you've added Ryan Gravenberch in, and that's not been the case. And I know they go to Newcastle, and that's not an easy game, but they actually don't give up that much in expected goals, and they also don't really give up counters at all. It's just 2 kind of long balls into the box that they don't deal with well. And then they follow that game up by playing Arsenal, who put balls into the box, and they defend them really well. They did it against Everton. They did it against Burnley. So they've kind of just solved the problems as they've gone. And as you say, you look at the expected goals numbers against over the past kind of 4 games, they've been very, very good. I always think if you're south of 0.7 on your expected goals against, you can probably expect to keep a clean sheet, or you might get unlucky on some occasions. But if you stay the other side of 0.7, you can be pretty you're primed pretty much to get a clean sheet. And so Liverpool doing that at the moment, and very unlucky against Atletico. The Everton finish is a great finish. I think obviously they keep clean sheets against Arsenal and Burnley, so they're defending at a very good level. I think where they've maybe struggled a little bit is kind of, Burnley, they couldn't kind of get the breakthrough till the penalty, and the expected goals for against Arsenal, against Everton, are not right up there where you'd want to be. But it's a new team, being put together basically, and I think there are going to be teething problems in that aspect. But defensively, been very, very solid, really. And again, you could have a defensive record like Arsenal if you want to play like them, but obviously that's got trade-offs, which are that they cannot create from open play at all. And again, if we're talking about kind of issues that title challengers have got, why are we talking about Liverpool's? I think Liverpool's are like, they do have some things to kind of work out, not defending. I think maybe just getting more consistent in their attacking play. But Arsenal can't create from open play whatsoever. Their open play XG is nothing, basically. And that's going to be a bigger issue for them going forward than any of the other title challenges they've got. I just think that is a real problem they've got, and yet no one's kind of talking about it enough, I think. So, for me, Liverpool, that underlying performance is starting to click up to match with where they want to be. And I think in kind of 4 or 5 games time, I think they'll be absolutely fine. I don't think Liverpool have got huge problems, certainly not in defence, as you say. So, I'd be more worried if I was an Arsenal fan, particularly because their underlying performance is questionable and 5 points behind already.
Yeah. Long story short, it's a fair conclusion, people. If everything just carries on the way it is at the moment, we will all be absolutely ecstatic come the end of the season. And in off-the-field news, it does feel like stories are going to rage about links to players. It's a bit quiet with the transfer window. And the other one to ask you about, and it's just going to rumble and rumble until someone definitively in Mark Gay's camp, Ibu Konate's camp, or the players come out themselves. It's kind of easy paper news, isn't it, really, just to stick in a link to Real Madrid again, or someone signed a deal, or the famous they're leaning towards somewhere. It's easy to fill column inches that way, isn't it?
Yeah, just feels, to be honest, like a lot of noise at the moment. And, there's a few things going on. The Real Madrid stuff kind of, they want Konate, they want Saliba, they want Gay. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to sign all 3 of them, to be honest. I think they'll sign one of them. But it's still all up in the air. I still haven't had anything kind of concrete on Konate to say either way that there's going to be a resolution anytime soon. Obviously, the closer you get to January, the more kind of risky that gets. But we'll see. You still live in hope of a breakthrough. It's very, very hard to say in a concrete fashion. I know people want to, but we just don't know yet, genuinely. And with Gay, pretty similar. Liverpool ruling out January, but maybe, I don't know. It's all kind of stuff that's up in the air, and I think very hard to predict at the moment.
It is, yeah. Any link like Belabor, Wharton, we've all got things we'd like, but yeah, we're all waiting for anything solid to develop on those. And I suppose the only other, and it's a weird one to ask you about, but it's relevant because I didn't think our owners would be doing things like the overlap in the US, but there's Tom Werner talking about, Liverpool, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, the transfers and everything. Have you seen any of that and any thoughts on it at all?
I actually haven't, to be honest. I've seemingly somehow missed that. If you want to give me a brief précis, I'm all ears. But I genuinely, I've not seen that.
Yeah, I mean, he looks very tanned, but he is probably a billionaire, so he should be enjoying his life and those bits. But yeah, talking about Richard Hughes, the picking of Arne Slot, how Michael Edwards has been key, how they're looking at multi-clubs, saying that, they try and distance themselves, from the emotions that sometimes you need to spend because of the way it works. There was nothing really, I suppose, controversial or things that he came out and thought, oh, why is he saying that? Which, considering Tom Werner talked about playing a game in the US, is probably a good thing. So maybe someone's just had a word before. But just a bit weird, our owner being on a US overlap type of thing. I mean, you'd be worried if Richard Hughes sat down with Neville Keane and Ian Wright around the table, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Tom Werner's actually kind of, he's out of FSG, the one who will kind of on the big occasions will stop in the mix zone and speak to us, give us 5 minutes. You never can really get a word out of Mike Gordon or John Henry. That's very difficult. Tom Werner will be the one who will front up and speak. So I'm not surprised it's maybe that it is him who's done that. And, you know, he might as well talk about it at the moment, because I think they're doing an incredible job and they've got to be pretty pleased with themselves, haven't they? So, yeah, interesting. I'll have to kind of look into that and see exactly what he said. But yeah, like I say, it's not a bad time for them to talk, albeit I'm pretty sure Red Sox fans aren't happy with them at the moment, are they? Because they think all the money's getting ploughed into Liverpool, even though that's not how it works. But yeah, FSG for me, you know, doing a fantastic job at the moment.
Yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff going off the field at the moment. But this coming week ahead, it does start. There is just one game in midweek, and it is the Carabao. And I was going to ask you about this. Is there a press conference? I was wondering if he was going to, you know, like Jurgen Klopp couldn't be bothered basically at the end with it and sent Pep Linders. Are we going to see Van Bronckhorst? Is there even a press conference for this one?
No press conference today. So they're basically, I think they're going to send some quotes around, although I've not actually had them. So I'm looking forward to seeing those. But yeah, no press conference for this one. I think it's just because it, you know, I don't know. I don't actually know how they don't have a kind of, you know, they're not compelled to do one for some reason, but apparently they're not. So there's no press conference to get anything out of today, unfortunately.
There you go. So we'll see if any quotes or anything develop. Although I suppose after this game, Arne Slot, I mean, he was pretty open with his hand to Southampton, wasn't he? He did say like Big Five would be rested, as in the ones who played the 90 minutes: Virgil, Ibu, Ryan Gravenberch, Mo Salah and Dominic Szoboszlai would not be part of it. He was quite open with that. Truth be told, a lot of fans would want even more to have the night off, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a completely changed 11, to be honest. I'd be surprised if there's anyone, you know, anyone who's kind of played a big role in this start to the season won't be involved, really. I think there'll be quite a few kids on the bench. But I'm actually really excited for this game, really looking forward to it, because I think it's going to be a really interesting team. You know, you think even with all the changes you can make, I still think it's going to be strong, but loads of players who, you know, we'll get a glimpse of that we're looking forward to. So, you know, you can almost go through the team. So we get to see a bit of Marmadashvili, which I'm looking forward to. You know, I think Frimpong maybe come back in at right back. Then you go Gomez, Leone. So really looking forward to seeing Leone. Obviously like seeing Gomez play. At left back, Andy Robertson coming back into captain. And then in midfield, probably, you know, wholesale changes. So we like to see a bit of Endo, don't we? Curtis Jones, maybe Trey Naoni. You know, up front, Chiesa will be involved, no doubt. You know, maybe an Isak start, which would be great and good for him, and then Rio Engamoa. So, you know, if that's the starting 11, that's really strong, and but also, you know, loads of great stories in there and things to get stuck into, and loads of players. You know, we want to see Neoni play well. I want to see Leone, see what, you know, learn a bit about him. See Mamadashvili for the first time in a competitive game. So, and always exciting to see Engamoa as well. So loads really to get stuck into. So I'm very much looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be interesting.
It could be so interesting, the lineup. And I suppose it's the two things that are sort of pressing for a lot of people. You mentioned there, Isak and Wirtz were on the bench, obviously, for the derby. So people, and McAllister started, was rested. Do you think we will see any of the big three? I know you mentioned you think Isak will start there. Wirtz and Maka getting serious minutes potentially?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm reeling off the team there and haven't put Wirtz in it. But as you say, you know, he doesn't play very much against Everton. And I think, you know, opportunities for rhythm, the manager's big on that. I mean, there's been times, wasn't there, when in the League Cup where he played a player, you kind of thought, what's that about? But it was about rhythm and keeping them going. So for Wirtz, who, you know, he's had a game off there basically against Everton, maybe he does come back in, and that kind of would make sense, which again, you know, you're putting Wirtz and Isak in the same team in a League Cup game. That's pretty strong, isn't it? So, like I say, I think it's going to be an exciting team, and one that, even with a few changes in it, is going to be very, very strong. So I'm looking forward to that. And if Wirtz can get a goal or an assist, that'd be nice for him as well in terms of his confidence. So, really looking forward to seeing the starting 11.
It will be fascinating. And I mean, we talk about youngsters because we already know them as well in Rio Engamoa. Trey Naoni, won't be surprised if he started at all. I mean, yesterday, the under-21s had United, didn't they, at the academy? And it was interesting that no Kieran Morrison, no Tommy Pillin, no Jayden Dans either. Think they've got a chance? Because I think obviously like someone like Kieran Morrison, he was linked with a move away, wasn't he, to quite a few clubs? And I just wonder, is this a chance for some of these, so to speak?
Yeah, I think you'll see them all on the bench, to be honest. I think that Gravenberch just won't be in the squad. I don't think Van Dijk will be in the squad. I think that so there's going to be gaps in the squad that need to be filled, and albeit saying about it being a strong starting 11, I think the bench is going to be kind of packed out with youngsters, and these clearly are going to be in line to do that. Really pleased with Dan's, because I always hope he gets on the pitch. I really like him, and as you say with Kieran Morrison, it's maybe Liverpool saying, look, there are opportunities here. You don't need to kind of move on. And Tommy Pillin's another good young player. So, looks like they will be involved, which I think it makes sense. And, if Liverpool can get themselves in a good position in the game, it'll be nice to get them on the pitch if possible.
Yeah, honestly, it's so hard to predict certain bits of this. And I suppose that I know the official line is going to be Liverpool want to win everything and will be competitive. If you were to give Arne Slot truth serum, do you think he would go, give it Southampton? We've got the Champions League and the Premier League to concentrate on.
No, I think he'll want to go through in this, because I think you can't foresee situations where Leone gets minutes, for example, if they're not in this competition. And you need to keep your squad happy, really, because that's tough to do over a long season, and particularly last season. I mean, that's why some of the players had to move on. For Harvey Elliott, for example, he wanted to move on because he wasn't getting enough minutes. And you think, for someone like Leone who you have to develop, or someone like Trey Leone similarly, or Rio Engamoa who will get Premier League and Champions League minutes, don't get me wrong, but these are the big opportunities for them to get them. You need to stay in this competition, really. So I'm quite hopeful Liverpool can go on a run in this, because I think it's important for keeping the squad happy, but also developing those young players as well.
Yeah, maybe that does come into the mix. There is, Chiesa missed out again, didn't he, completely on the weekend? So you've got to give him some game time somewhere. And I suppose with this, he may well want to win it to keep in. But there's a hell of a week coming up afterwards, isn't there, where it's 3 away. I mean, Palace away, the only other unbeaten team in the Premier League. Galatasaray, I mean, we all remember the welcome to hell banners and everything there, followed by Chelsea away on the Saturday night in the Premier League at 5:30. Is there some might get minutes, but nothing will be risked at all? Is that a fair assessment of this?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be careful. Like, we're talking about Wirtz and Isak being used, but it'll be very kind of managed with what, and I think regardless of scoreline, they'll be coming off on the hour mark, and, someone else will be coming in to take the place. I think they'll be very, very kind of careful about that and not throwing too much at it. But it's equally, to not use Isak would be a risk in this one, because you need to get him fit. And so this is a perfect opportunity to do it. And I think also, with Wirtz, he can still be in your starting 11 for Palace, because it's Tuesday to Saturday, which is a much nicer break for Liverpool. So, that kind of works out quite nicely. And then obviously, they're going Tuesday, Saturday again. So the Tuesdays to the Saturdays aren't too bad at all, I think. So it's worked out quite nicely for Liverpool, really. And again, that's a tough one at the weekend, I think. And Liverpool, I think you're going to see Slot put out whatever he thinks is his best 11 in that one, because Palace are flying, and even Liverpool seem to have a good record at Selhurst Park, but they seem to win by the odd goal every single time, and loads of them have come in the last minute for some reason. So, this is a really, really tricky game. So I think, we can see some first teamers in this League Cup game, but I think all attention will be on making sure that the squad is primed for that game at the weekend, because it's a really, really tough one. So, one where I actually genuinely would probably shake hands on a draw right now, to be honest. So, I don't think we'll be kind of seeing. We won't see Salah on the bench, for example, to be coming on to try and win the game late on, because I just think it's the Premier League's a clear priority, but I think Liverpool will be strong enough to win it anyway.
Yeah, fingers crossed on all of those things. And we haven't really touched upon this, but as we go into the Carabao, because sometimes you've had to, like you say, manage things and, take the context of everything else that's going on. It shouldn't be ignored that with other teams, injuries and different bits, Arne Slot said it at the press conference you were at on Friday as well. He had 21 players to pick from. Everyone was essentially fit, wasn't it? Just that could be the work of Ruben Peters and the various teams there. That could just be pivotal to this season already, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's massive. You cannot underrate how important that is. And it was a key factor in Liverpool winning the Premier League last season. Their availability versus Arsenal's, along with the fact that Arsenal couldn't score for toffee and their expected goals was so low. But I think, and Liverpool were the better side, but availability is massive. And to have that, for a squad that wants to have a tilt at all 4 competitions, even things like kind of Bradley's missed a couple of games, but it's never turned into anything worse. Frimpong got a hamstring injury, and yet they managed to just minimise that to a couple of games. So they're really looking after these players, and it's through kind of, they're very liberal in the use of days off with the players, definitely more so than the previous regime. Little things like what the manager said in his last press conference about training later in the day to give the players a little bit of a lie-in so they could have more rest in 3 games in 6 days. They're very, very clever with how they do this, and they reap the rewards constantly in terms of the availability of the players. And I think it's just a massive factor in why Liverpool are so good at the moment. So, long may that continue.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that one. And to continue the positive vibe, to finish on the final question, expect us to go through against Southampton tomorrow night?
Yeah, I would think so. I think even with the changes, Liverpool should be strong enough. I'm not sure what kind of team that Southampton will name either. So, I'm pretty confident Liverpool will go through.
And that would just be a continuation of the perfect season so far. So there we go, ladies and gents. Derby bragging rights, 5 out of 5. Other teams dropping points. Things looking decent off the field. There is not really too much to complain about, although there is a heck of a week coming up. So we'll see what that brings. All that leaves me to say as ever is, for the time, the insight, and for answering all the questions, David, it is massively appreciated as ever.
Thanks for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.